Hey guys, welcome to another video from XF Motorsports. Today we are going to be taking the 300ZX to the dyno. In the previous video with this car, we took the engine out of it, we changed the turbos, the engine mounts, wiring harness, and a whole lot of stuff on the engine. And now it's finally time to take it to the dyno and tune all this and see how much power the car will actually make. So Sebastian, what do you think?
Well, I hope we're going to reach our goal, which is maybe close to 500 to the wheel. Let's see. Let's go there and test it out.
Yeah, so I think we are on stock internals with this engine, by the way. So I think the safe boost limit is going to be 21 or 22 psi from what I've heard. So we're going to tune it around there at that boost level and see whatever power it makes. I think going above that would not make too much sense because it's going to put the engine at risk of like breaking a piston or something later on. So yeah, let's take it to the dyno, see what type of power numbers we get. So in the previous 300ZX video, we basically took the engine out of the car, changed the timing belt, water pump, all the seals on it, paired it with much bigger turbos, changed the injectors on it so it could flow more fuel, and basically, did everything to the engine to get it ready for more power. And while we were at it, we also changed the entire wiring harness and paired it with the Haltech ECU so that we could have more control over tuning the car. Once everything on the car was back in place, there was a little bit of setup work to do in the Haltech, basically telling it the fire pattern of the engine and all the specifics so that it can actually control the engine. So here's all the setup pages that I had to set up, and if you guys are going with the same setup, you can also copy these values and they will work for you. But after this, when we were trying to sync the timing on the engine to the Haltech, there was a little bit of trouble because we weren't detecting spark on the engine, so we had to do a little bit of figuring out to get that working. Okay, so a day later after trying to start the 300ZX, and we still haven't started it. We ran into a bunch of issues yesterday. The first issue was that we were struggling with the Haltech, seeing why the timing light wasn't firing and why we weren't getting a spark. And then I had to get the oscilloscope out, do a bunch of probing, and turned out that the igniter, the thing that gives the ignition coils the signal to fire, was not working, and we had to go back to this older style of igniter that came with the engine, which didn't really fit the wiring. So we had to take this part from the old wiring harness and make it all work together, and we didn't have this plug that goes into here, so we're just putting in wires right now with a timing light and trying to get the timing to so that the timing light fires when we see 0 on the crank, which would mean that the timing on the Haltech is synced with the timing on the actual engine. And then we can proceed with the rest of it and try to start the engine.
Yeah, go for it.
So after changing the igniter, thankfully everything did start working and the timing light started firing like it should, and we were able to find top dead center. So basically that white mark I've left on the crank pulley, when it lines up with the 0, that's when cylinder 1 is at top dead center. And once of course that position was synced, then we could get on to giving the engine fuel and everything else and try to actually start it up. After the engine started, there was a little bit of setup work to do to get it running properly, setting up the AFRs, setting the throttle positions so that they open properly and the engine idles properly, filling in all the fluids of course, and basically that was pretty much it. Okay, so now most of everything is back together. We've filled up all the fluids. The Haltech is working with the rest of the car. It's idling fine, and the O2 values are looking fine on the base map so far. It actually seems like a pretty good base map. I haven't had to change too much to get it to a reasonable point. But now we're actually going to take the car for a bit of a drive, do a little bit of street tuning on it, see how it runs. Let's see if we can get it into boost. If the numbers seem good, then we are. If they're looking off, then we might not. The only problem right now is that, well, we have one O2 gauge just sitting over here. The other O2 gauge that was mounted properly actually stopped working. It's most likely, I think, the O2 sensor that is behaving a little funny, so we'll have to look into that. But for now, we're just going to use one. We're going to dial in the air fuel ratios and drive the car, see how everything is going, and then go from there and see what more work we have to do to get everything running properly, and then hopefully take it to the dyno soon enough.
Okay, careful because it's fucking fast.
You're happy? How does she feel?
He's feeling amazing.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Awesome.
it's like the lowest of the lowest everything right now. Wastegate pressure, like timing is retarded crap. Air fuel ratios are like 11s or 10s. So like thinking we're only gonna go higher from here. This is a really good starting point. It's on camera too.
I've been working a long time. I don't wanna break his story right away.
Oh, there you go. Now you're pushing it.
Let's be respectful of this story.
Okay, so the car is back after test driving it for the first time, and I think that was the most perfect test drive you could ask for after doing all that work. The car was a lot of struggle, like putting it back together, dealing with all the annoying Nissan stuff, and like, but yeah, after all that, we could not have expected for a better result. Like literally driving the car the first time out, everything just worked right out of the box. We didn't have to change anything, didn't have to work too hard on the tune. At this point, it's in pretty good shape to head to the dyno. So next, we just gotta book a good day for the dyno, take it there, and then really see what type of power the car makes.
Are you getting ready?
Yeah. So at the dyno, things were going really well initially. The car was gaining more and more power after every run as I was tuning the ignition timing and the AFRs to a better point. And also the valve timing. The intake valves on this engine are variable, but it's one of those older, really crappy systems where you can either advance the valve all the way or retard it all the way. There's no middle point. But nonetheless, things were fairly easy to tune on it. We started off by running the car at 15 psi, and even at that really low boost level, I believe the car was giving numbers like 370 wheel horsepower after everything was dialed in, so it was a fairly good start. So midway through the dyno session, we've run into a little bit of a problem. There's a overflow pipe that was going into the plastic thing that snapped off, so now all the coolant overflow just spills out. So that's something that we won't be able to fix right now, but I guess we'll just let it spill because it is just an overflow, so it doesn't really matter. But we're going to keep increasing the boost. Right now it was at 17 psi. The car was putting about 370 wheel horsepower. Still not, the timing is still not dialed in properly, so I think the numbers are looking pretty good. I think we can get some decent numbers from this engine and everything. So yeah, let's keep ramping up the boost, get the timing right, and then see what numbers we end up with. So after we started crossing 17 psi, things did not look too good after that point, because as the engine was driving higher and higher, the air fuel ratios were leaning out, and I was trying to add more fuel from the Haltech, but nothing was really working. The car would still lean out on the high RPMs, so I suspected there was something funny going on with the fueling. I told Sebastian to record the fuel pressure regulator when the car was actually doing a power run, and sure enough, there was quite a lot of fuel pressure dropping as the car was doing a run on the dyno. And well, the Haltech also started detecting knock, and knock was actually so loud you could actually hear it from like not even looking at the values. So at that point we decided to bring the boost back down to 17 psi and just tune the car over there for now. It was a little disappointing that we didn't upgrade the fuel pump early on, but people had told us that this stock factory fuel pump for the car would be good enough to take it up to 600 wheel horsepower, but clearly not. It barely even hit 400 wheel horsepower. I think the maximum number we saw was 395 wheel horsepower or something, and after that, yeah, there wasn't enough fuel to go anything higher. So after dynoing the 300ZX, we had to stop at about 380 wheel horsepower, really close to 400, but didn't quite make it there. And the problem was we ran out of fuel. So I was trying to give it more fuel from the Haltech, but of course nothing was changing. The AFRs were actually leaning out towards the high RPM, which clearly meant that, like, yeah, something was wrong with the fueling. I told Sebastian to look at the fuel pressures while we were doing the dyno run, and sure enough, yeah, the fuel pressures were dropping. So that's a clear sign that we've ran out of fuel. That's the limit of the factory fuel pump. It can't flow more than that. That's why the car is not going to make any more power than that right now. But of course the solution is fairly simple. We just got to move to a better fuel pump and then come back here, give it some more boost. The turbos are working really well, not a sign of the turbos running out of flow. The engine is handling the boost pretty well, and everything else is, yeah, holding up perfect. So hopefully, yeah, the setup will make some good power numbers. It's just that, well, the fuel has to be there for us to get there. So yeah, that's going to be the next upgrade now. So on the way back, we decided to have a little bit of fun on the streets, seeing what a 380 wheel horsepower 300ZX feels like. And apparently Sebastian thought it was a hell of a lot faster than before, and he was really happy with it. But still, we got to return to the dyno with the proper fuel pump and really see how much power this car actually makes then.
I see the flame.
You saw it?
I see it.
So that was everything for the 300ZX. After the dyno, Sebastian, yeah, pretty much drove it back home, and he decided to call it off until spring or summer because the weather got pretty cold, and he thought there's no point taking the car back to the dyno since he's not going to be driving it anyways. So yeah, he didn't buy the fuel pump right now. I'm waiting for him to buy the fuel pump and then take it back to the dyno, and that's when you guys are gonna hopefully see the car make its full power. But I am hopeful that the car is gonna make good dyno numbers because at least before it ran out of fuel, everything was going really well. It was making good power for the boost and everything we were putting into it. So yeah, hopefully in a few months you guys are gonna see another video on that, taking it back to the dyno and hopefully making good numbers with it. But before that, you guys are going to see some more videos on this car. This is an old R107 that we're putting a C633 engine into. So we have a C633 over here that we're taking the engine, transmission, all the electronics, everything out of that car. Also to show you guys some other cars in the shop. This one is an S63 that also came in for, well, a few of the common issues M156s are known for, cam adjusters and yeah, a few other sensors and stuff that I need to replace on it. But beautiful car other than that. Really nice matte gray color. I really like the wheels on it. No idea what these ones are, but they definitely look really cool. Other than that though, actually, yeah, to show you guys some parts on the CNC machine, because the CNC has actually been awfully busy these days. Quite a few custom parts orders that I need to work on. Some of them I've already made and shipped, but oh yeah, right now is actually just finishing up on these ones. Well, interestingly enough, these are actually also for an R107. Someone else did an R107 swap in Australia actually. He put an M113 engine in one, and I'm making these steering knuckles for him. This was actually his design. I was actually just machining it and making it, and these ones actually turned out to be ridiculously difficult to make because they're made out of like some steel that is really difficult to machine, and it keeps wearing out all your tools in no time at all. Basically, you start off with a block of steel like this, and you have to machine it down to this shape. So yeah, definitely not a fun part to make. But other than that, a few other things that you guys are going to be seeing in the next few videos. These gears I made in a previous video, but now I'm actually going to be making a dry sump system, which I'm going to use these gears in for that engine, the S500 engine that we're going to be using in an F1 car. And then hopefully, if I have a bit more time, I want to use the same dry sump system in my car as well, the E55 ASL, because that one also starves on oil when I drive it on the track and push it too hard. Also, yeah, we were making a rear wing that I hopefully, yeah, in a few videos from now, hopefully you guys are also going to see a rear wing being made where we're working on this. We were cutting some inserts that go on the side of the rear wing and stuff, so yeah, that is also going to be coming up really soon. And other than that, a Maserati transmission over here that I had to make a bell housing for, but this one, yeah, the engine didn't come in yet, so I couldn't do anything on that one. But an M119 transmission adapter that I will be making actually really soon. I was just waiting to find some time on the machine. So this one, someone requested he wants to do a CD09 swap on an M119. So just like this engine, the M113, we have adapters for that where you can bolt the CD09 transmission to. Now we will also be making the same adapters for M119. Other than that, some really cool things on this engine that are going to be coming up soon. I'm going to be porting these heads, making them bigger so they flow better, putting different valve springs in them, putting different cams, and then also making custom pistons for this engine, and then yeah, a whole bunch of custom parts for this one actually that are going to be coming pretty soon. Custom intake manifold, custom exhaust manifold. We're going to be putting 2 massive turbos with it, and hopefully trying to get a lot of power out of this one. So, and for this one we're actually going to be testing it on an engine dyno even before we put it in the car, because well, the car it's going in is not even made yet. We have to make the car before we even put the engine in it. So this one's a really cool project. I cannot wait for more progress on this one. So yeah, quite a few things going on that you guys are going to see in the next few videos. This is going to be everything for now. Thanks a lot for watching. See you in the next one.